Tower of Sweets, a hard difficulty tower harkening back to old ZToA times that managed to get in Dimension 1. Let's go over what makes this tower interesting and how it was made. So the thing you're probably wondering is, what is there about the old Tower of Sweets, the one in the old ZToA game? Well, there's many things about it. Firstly, it was actually named Tower of Candy, but when the revamp started, Tower of Coolness was already made, and that had the same tower acronym, so it had to be a different title. Secondly, Tower of Candy's creation date is mysteriously unknown. We know it's in 2020, but the exact date is a mystery. Based on the best of my research, it was 100% made in June, though there's not a lot of messages I could use to get more info. In the Discord server, Mesa was working on Tower of Green Bean on May 31st, 2020. Assuming that Tower of Candy was Mason's next tower after Green Bean, along with the fact that towers were made in a short amount of time back then, this is the most accurate I can get. While the tower was under construction, it was approved by many people in the community. Unlike Mason's other towers, which were constantly lazy and subpar, this one actually had great design for the time, and the gameplay was actually passable. One person that didn't approve of it was Riot7. He was apparently tired of all the laziness that Mason's towers were showing, including Tower of Candy. Rise started heavily criticizing the tower and absolutely despising it. The hate got so bad that Mason didn't want to continue the tower anymore and scrapped it when it reached floor 4. Messages about this incident go back as early as June 28, 2020, so the lifespan of the tower was somewhere between early June and mid-June. It was never even touched again. And then came May 13th, 2021. It had been less than a year since Tower of Candy was last talked about. In ZToA R, Dimension 1 was getting close to being finished. During that time, Mason, for whatever reason, felt like making a tower. Mason doesn't play any sort of tower game, let alone make them anymore, so that was quite a surprise. He mentioned it to Z and he thought it was a good idea to collab. They both had the idea to revamp Tower of Candy, the tower that was so loved by old community members. Therefore, the two of them got to work on the new and improved Tower of Sweets. Since it had died on 4, it was quite easy restoring and revamping the first half of the tower. Then, on floor 6, construction slowed down a bit. Mason wasn't quite interested in helping with the tower anymore, so Z was alone. That was until he contacted me about it. He had noticed how interested I was regarding the tower during development, so it made sense for him to ask me if I wanted to help out with it. I said sure, and I got Team Create access. Unfortunately, if you're trying to make a medium and you invite me to the Team Create, it'll instantly turn into a hard difficulty. Despite that, the tower continued to make steady progress. Eventually, we made it to floor 10. Z really wanted to get the tower done quickly. It has been in development for more than 2 months now, and tower ideas were running low. That's why floor 10 looks and feels so rushed. Also, the final stretch was kind of just put there because Z wanted one. It's heavily inspired by Tower of High Adrenaline's outside speed section on floor 5. Despite how rushed it was at the end, it was finally done on July 25th, 2021 at 4 in the morning. Yup, that's a true fact. After the tower was finally finished, it was submitted and reviewed by Anki on the same day. However, if you have ever seen his reviewing skills, you should know what happens next. It got a very poor score and therefore was not put into the whitelist. While me, Z, and Mason thought that the review was BS, some parts of it did make sense, so we decided to change it up a bit before the second review. Nerfs were implemented and some extra design was put in. However, although a second review would have been better, creators at the time were too lazy and no one wanted to take a look at the tower. So the best decision to do was to auto-confirm it. Nice one, Z. After the tower was put into the game, not a whole lot happened. As mentioned before, the tower was meant to be medium, but after difficulty polls came out, the majority of people agreed it was hard difficulty. This was Mesa's first and the last tower he participated in, at least for ZToA R. And how ironic is it that it would be a revamp of an older tower of his? Now that I think about it, just imagine all of the old ZToA towers revamped for ZToA R. That would be absolutely wonderful in my opinion. Thanks for watching, see you in the next video.